Okay, welcome everybody to episode 50 of the RF Generation Collectorcast. It only took us like 50 years to get to the episode 50, but we did it, guys.
Yeah,
one year is a good pace.
Yeah, one a year. I like it.
I think, like I've said before, though, technically we've already hit 50. So this is just, is like pseudo 50, can we call that?
We did a bunch of little sideshows. We're probably closer to 57, 58 would be my guess.
All right, well, gosh almighty. So episode 50, I would wish we had like the most amazing stuff planned for you with like fireworks and free games and celebrity guests and money that came out of your phone.
Yeah.
Is he? That's true. You were in Sleepers. I forget about that.
That's right.
So, I mean, technically you probably have a SAG card, right?
Yeah. That's why I couldn't do Borderlands 3 because the union.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So I'm curious, how often do you update your IMDb page?
Just that one time. And but what's even more fun is updating like the trivia page. Did you know?
Mr. McGee appears regularly in a small unknown podcast.
Tucker literally also ran his own retro gaming convention.
Yep. This podcast has tens of listeners.
Hey, I will have you know we have well north of 100 downloads.
Yeah. All time.
It's like one per episode.
We do have a lot to talk about, though, because, not only do we have a topic, and questions. Questions are back again. And Bill went to the actual Retroworld Expo, so we're going to get an update on what Krabby and I missed because we're stupid people that have responsibilities and stuff that we have to take care of.
I am too, but I ignored them for a day. And it was also, we'll get to this, but it was the day of my wife's baby shower.
Yo.
Do you need any help? Because I'm going to go.
Well, you took your son with you, right? That's the help.
Exactly right. Yeah, my younger son went with my dad and hung out for the day, and I took my older son. So taking the kids away so she could focus on the shower. Like at first she was like, "You can't go. It's the day of the shower." And I was like, "No, dude. Like this is a good thing."
Well, and remember, everybody, now you've heard the story of how Bill had his last child.
Yeah. Currently true.
Oh, that ship's sailing, buddy boy.
Yep.
It's already left the port. But, we always I like to get to it right away because they're fun, and those are questions. But before I want to get to, the listener questions, we were just having a quick chat before, and I want to recap quickly for the listeners to get them up to speed. We were talking about old Batman because anybody that listens to the show knows that Krabby and Bill are Bat fans, and I'm Luke Batwarm on things at best. But Krabby, you were talking about you'd started reading some of the old funny papers, like from the ancient days where Batman karate chopped and shot people on a regular basis.
Like the original run from 1939 onward into the 40s. It's been very interesting.
I would imagine. I gotta be really curious. Does Batman use 1930s language? See?
It's mostly not bad, when they're actually speaking, other than just a one-liner every time they do something action. It's the description text that's always very weird and homoerotic. It really describes his flexing muscles in his amazing looking suit constantly, and then once they add Robin into the mix more often, it just gets weird.
Well, I mean, I don't, but you got to give the people what they want. Sex sells.
They want Robin's tight little frame all the time, apparently.
you got to draw the bat bulge. You know what I mean? It's got to happen. I was just wondering, are they the coppers are here?
I'm waiting for a few really goofy moments, but there's one panel every 10 books that'll jump out at me like that, but it's not as overt as you'd think it'd be.
Oh no, it's the President Roosevelt here.
Well, yeah, he's selling war bonds, a couple recent ones, because World War II's been going on while they're writing, so it's creeping into the text a little bit.
Children, stop buying this comic book and go buy war bonds. Support the war effort. But please really don't, because we still need a job. So I'm curious, Bill, then have you read any of these really old ones?
So when I started getting into Batman, it was pretty late. Arkham Asylum had come out, and it was amazing. And there's not a ton of games that I play where I kind of like really get like deep into like like a lot of games have like like Skyrim's got books and like like there's games that like you can really dive deep. In Doom 2016, there's a lot of lore there if you want to dive into it. Sometimes I'll get into that, but typically I don't. In Arkham Asylum, I really got deep into it. Like when you would find like a a new bad guy and you'd read a whole thing about and there's ones that like Two-Face and Catwoman and Penguin, but then there's some of the ones that maybe you didn't know as much about, and I started kind of deep diving there. So I remember going to PAX East, I think it was 2013, 2012, 2013, one of the first ones I went to, and there was a dude who was the community manager for Harmonix at the time that I had kind of been chatting with because I was big in the Rock Band forums back when I could actually like play and get on leaderboards and stuff. And he was a big Batman guy. And I asked him, I was like, listen, dude, how do I like I'm just getting like my feet wet with Batman. Like, what do you recommend? Like, should I just go back to like number one and just, go forward? And he said, no,
No,
don't do that.
I would also not recommend it. I
Yeah.
was just more curious to see like
Right.
how when certain tropes were introduced into the series, and some of them are like right there from the start, and some of them you just do not see for a long time.
Right, yeah. So he said like, the original stories, he's like, not only are they hard to track down, but they're a mess. They're all out of order. Like there's tons of weird different storylines. He's like, what I would do is I would get some of like the main, like, the good story arcs that people like know and like, like Year One, Killing Joke, Dark Knight, Returns, like all that stuff. So I kind of went with some of the more modern, like 80s and 90s story arcs, but I have gone back and read like Batman, like like 1 through 5, and like some of the early stuff. And that very first issue, which was a Detective Comics issue, it's pretty cool because like they play it up like Batman and Bruce Wayne are different people, and then the reveal happens like at the end of the episode, and it's like whoa, and like that was like the setup for like the rest of the issues. But yeah, it's we have this perception of kind of like the old timey dialogue when it really kind of plays like just like an episode of like Batman on TV where like everything's very deliberate, where like they don't assume that who Commissioner Gordon is like every single time. So like each time it's got to be like, this is the commissioner here and he works with Batman. So but yeah, I've gone back a little.
So did you read
well.
It's pretty early. Did you read the one with Hugo Strange where he takes mentally ill people and like turns them into monsters, and then Batman literally like hangs him by a noose out of his plane like a mentally deranged person?
No, I did not.
It's brutal, and he does stuff like that all the time in the first year of the books.
Wow.
Nuts.
Well, I mean, we all remember the recent movie where Batman tried to kill Superman because he's a killer. I mean, that's what Batman does. Because he obviously
could
does.
If he wanted to be fair.
Yeah, it's a really good thing that,
Martha!
that their moms had the same name, exactly.
Gosh, who would have thunk it? Well, I guess if we want to talk about my introduction to Batman, that would be like the Batusi and 60s reruns of the 60s Batman, and I never really read the comics. And then Batman '89 happened, which Krabby, you were poo-pooing recently, right?
5 years old when that came out.
Yeah,
I rewatched
so young.
in this just a few days ago, and it's not good. It's not good.
and my comment was, it was never good. You just remember as a child.
Yes, that's 100% what happened. I had very good feelings about that movie.
And I also told Krabby to prepare to really wreck his childhood when he figures out how bad Batman Returns is.
Because that one I have the best feelings about, and I'm a little nervous to rewatch it now.
Yeah, I would just leave it alone, if I were you.
Yeah,
but...
I remember having Batman '89 on VHS, and for some reason I remember like looking, because like with VHS, like I was big on like looking at covers and spines and stuff. It was just a thing, the early collector seed was planted. But I remember looking at it and like one of the movie reviews says like the film of the decade. And I remember thinking like, oh wow, the film of the decade. And I remember watching it, and as a kid, it was probably it's not, you know, super like ultra violent or anything like that, but there's some disturbing images and some, you know, like kind of like the weird way they say it in the rating, like, oh, like frightening imagery. But I remember being like really really scared, and I was super scared of heights when I was a kid. So you know, with the at the end of the movie when they're like going up the tower and like
Sure.
they're looking up and they're looking down, like I remember being like really super scared just watching that, like shaking. But you know, I haven't seen it like super recently, but I feel like I watched it like a few years ago, and it's probably one of those things where it's you know, there are movies where like it'll strike me like, oh my god, this is so bad, but more often than not, I'll just watch it and like I'll kind of, you know, be like, yeah, I remember this, and I remember seeing this when I was a kid, and like it's, you know, it's I don't really remember the last time I watched it thinking like, oh man, this is really really bad. But I'm with Krabby in that Batman Returns was kind of my favorite of the first, you know, handful of films. Definitely the first of the Tim Burton ones.
Like the character Knox in the first movie,
Hmm.
I had completely wiped from my mind. I did not
Yeah.
remember him in this movie, and it's because every line he has is the worst line in the entire movie. It is so cringeworthy listening to that guy talk.
Come on, like
The
none of them
king
are great.
of the
are
Wicker
they?
people.
Yeah, it's just everything is so bad.
Come on, you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I mean, come on now. That's not like ace writing.
What does that even mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
And
What's
like
the
what, like,
point?
but you know what confused me is as a kid watching the movie, like they have a different actor play young Jack. So like
Right.
he comes out with a gun and he's like, "Oh, see you around, kid," and it's like, you know, Michael Keaton's character, Bruce Wayne, remembering. But I'm like, I mean, like, you know, that doesn't. And then like at the end when he's like, "You killed my parents," I'm like, "No, it was a different actor, dude. It wasn't Jack Nicholson." It's a
Check his
different guy.
IMDb page, man. He's
Yeah.
a totally different guy.
They should have just like taped the skin on his face back and, you know, had him do his own flashback.
See, all I can say is be glad George Lucas didn't do it because we would have a CGI redone version with a young Jack Nicholson in that scene. And whoever
That
was
might
the original
close
actor would be
that plot
scrubbed
hole
out.
for Bill, though.
Yeah. Yeah, we can have a looper.
Okay, well, I guess that takes me to what I was going to ask, and that is this new Joker movie that's come out, right?
yeah. Yes.
And I guess it did like really well on opening night or something. And
Today, I
so
think.
what's
It's only been
what's
out for
the interest?
like a day now, I think.
Yeah.
publicly.
Yeah, I like did really well from what I understand. So what are you guys' thoughts? Interested? No? Has DC killed things for you, or?
It did up until like, and I've been kind of hearing about this movie and had no interest in it at all until all the buzz I was hearing from film festivals.
Yep.
That kind of piqued my interest a little bit, so I do kind of want to check it out in the theater before it heads out.
Yep.
But
Yep. 100% the same.
Everything I heard about it just made it sound weirder and weirder, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be such a mess. And now it sounds like a beautiful mess, though, and I kind of want to go see it.
Do you kind of worry that DC really uses Joker as this giant crutch? Because how
Yes.
many Joker reboot stories have we had in the last few years? I mean, it's crazy, isn't it?
And we've had multiple great versions of the Joker. I don't feel like we're still trying to nail that character. I feel like we've nailed him like 3 times over now.
Yeah, because
I'd be very happy if they want to focus on some other characters for a while.
Because Suicide Squad version is peak Joker.
Peak Joker, yeah.
DC's doing their thing. I'm glad that they're at least looking at these things in a different direction now, maybe.
Yeah, I still need to see Shazam. That one I'm very interested in as well. It looks like a lot of fun and a lot different than their other stuff, because I wasn't into Aquaman and Wonder Woman like a lot of other people, where those didn't hit for me. But Shazam looks like I would enjoy it, and this Joker one looks like it could be interesting.
Yeah, I'll be kind of curious to see if they go more with this grit, you know what I mean? And kind of a different take on things.
Yeah,
but
and I'm happy to have like a Shazam that's like the total opposite of grit, and it's just goofy, campy fun. And then have the like crazy, gritty, hardcore, dark movie after that. Like I'd love to see them bounce between styles.
Yeah, and honestly, that's why I think I liked Wonder Woman so much, because it reminded me of 80s action hero movie. You know what I mean? Where it's just the good guy kicks butt, or the good gal in this one kicks butt.
Ooh,
literally,
pun intended.
Literally, yes.
Good for you.
I'll get an award even though I'm halfway asleep, but thank you. I pulled that one out. But, that's it. It's like the story wasn't crazy, but the bad guys were kind of and creepy, but you never had this like, oh no, it's totally going to fall apart. No, you're like, no, Wonder Woman's totally going to take this. It's kind of like an Indiana Jones movie. You never really worry that like nothing's ever going to happen to Indiana Jones. You know that. There's never a worry in your heart somewhere. It's just fun.
Right.
I kind of appreciate that. There's room for that, I guess I would say. And then what they're trying to do with Batman and Superman, I think they're just clueless. But it seems like they've been struggling for a long time with that.
With the live action stuff, for sure. Their animated stuff is fantastic, though. If you ever want to watch some good DC stories, like check out pretty much anything they've put out in the last 5 or 6 years that's animated. It's been really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, very good. All right, well, how about we switch over to some listener questions? How's that sound?
Let's do it.
All right. I threw this out pretty late because I was talking to the guys earlier and we're like, I'm getting ready to record. And what time are you going to be on? I know Bill's like, I lost my power.
We're on the ball for episode 50.
Yeah. This is how much we were looking forward to this, is that Bill lost his power because he was so excited.
Yep. As it turned out, it was not a down tree. Sarah thought it was a down tree because there was a tree trimming crew that like they come to trim the trees, before the wire guys get there. But she said apparently some flatbed truck came and somehow got their apparatus hooked on a wire that was never secured. I don't know all the details, but then they drove away and pulled the wire out of the transformer. and Sarah said she talked to some neighbors and they were like, there's this huge pop if you ever heard a transformer blow.
Oh yeah.
So transformer blew, but they I guess he didn't hear it because he was listening to I don't know, music too loud or something.
He's listening to the RF Generation Collectorcast.
Just kept driving. Yeah, that was Pocky. Took my power out. So yeah, but right after the guys were like, hey, yeah, we're all good for tonight. My wife was like, the power's out at our house. So, but yeah, came back up.
So what happened really is that Bill was really excited, so he plugged in his Genesis, Sega CD, and 32X all at the same time, and the power just went out.
Exactly. Good thing I didn't. No, and it's if I had a CDX, then the power would have gone out. But alas, there is none.
All right, well, let's get to these. Just a few of these that came out. First up is our buddy Josh, the @GameBoyGuru on Twitter, and he asks, what game or series have you played that you want to like, but it's because it's objectively good and you like the aspects of it, but the sum of the parts is less than a whole and it just doesn't click with you? So, Krabby, can you think man, you should like it? It just doesn't happen.
I wonder if he's thinking of the same game I am when he wrote this, because we both recently played Saints Row the Third with the Playcast. And I don't have a lot of bad things to say about it. It's just not a game that clicks with me. It does some really cool things with the open world, because normally I hate all the extra stuff because you have your save the world kind of mission and you're just ignoring it to go hunting and you're ignoring it to go help this guy. But all the stuff in this game kind of feeds into building up your empire and getting more money and more respect. And I thought that was kind of cool. I just don't want to be a gangbanger. I hate the soundtrack. I all the things they make you do are not things I think are fun. The humor doesn't hit for me, and none of this is bad game design. It's all just things I personally don't like. So I have no problem with the game, how it's laid out. It just doesn't click with me.
You heard it here first, folks, that Krabby does not want to be a gangbanger. I think that's the official term they use now.
Debunked.
Warriors!
Hey, if that was the type of gang, I'd be it.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm totally for the baseball players, you know.
In the kiss makeup.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what about you, Bill? You got one of these in your mind that you kind of like, and if you say Dark Souls, I'll reach through the microphone and I'll punch you.
No, I don't feel like I should like that. So that's
somewhere Ashana is smiling.
No, so that's so yeah, I have tried Dark Souls and I have not given up on it yet. I just haven't like, I want to give it the block of time that it deserves and not, like quit too early because, it hasn't beaten me down enough yet for me to stick with it. The first one that came to mind while I was listening to you read this, and I know that Grey Ghost is going to be looking down on me, is Metal Gear Solid 5. One of my favorite games of all time, Metal Gear Solid 1. I have fond memories of playing this thing, like we got it, me and a friend, we had a sleepover, we played till like 7 in the morning, like finished the whole thing. It was unbelievable. It was different than anything I'd ever played. It was stealthy, but still had the action. The story was amazing. If a little weird. And the music, like the ending song, is still one of my favorite songs. I just recently got the soundtrack on vinyl, the San Diego Comic-Con version with the Gray Fox cover. Metal Gear Solid 2, it had to grow on me a little bit, but eventually I played it like over and over and over, and I would get multiple endings and try different ways. And something happened Metal Gear Solid 3. I've tried to play Metal Gear Solid 3 like on 4 different occasions, and I've gotten like several hours into it, and it just does not click. And I know so many Metal Gear fans say it's the best one. Couldn't do it. I tried 3 or 4 times to play 4, and most recently, like just about a year ago, I tried 5. And I really stuck with it for a while, and I did enjoy it, but it's that same thing when you're like, it's objectively good, and there are like bajillions of people who were like, this is a 10 out of 10, masterpiece. Just something, I couldn't find my rhythm with it. And a lot of times I'll give games like that multiple tries because something like, Fallout 3 or Skyrim, where I just didn't understand how to play it. And I didn't just need someone to explain it to me. I needed someone to sit with me so I could ask questions like as I was playing. Like streaming makes that easier if I, ever went that route. But I could not get Metal Gear 5 to click. Like I'll get caught and then I'm bad at the combat and I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And, so for me, it's Metal Gear 5 and I have tried multiple times. So maybe when we get a little Grey Ghost sit down, we can do a little tutorial session.
Maybe one of these days he'll make the trip up to Retroworld Expo or something.
Yeah. Or I'll go down to Texas. I've always wanted to visit, get some barbecue down there, and a lot of good games in Austin, so I'm down for that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm with you. I still have my original Metal Gear Solid CD soundtrack import from Japan, awesome. From back when that came out, because it was like, oh, this is awesome, I've never played 5. I played through 4, but I have not picked up 5 yet. I've got it through the Xbox stuff, so maybe one of these days I'll give it a shot. It's just always time and other things that have come up, but I don't have an opinion one way or another. But the thing that, when you were bringing that, the thing that just hopped into my mind is I'm playing Bloodstained right now, and David Hayter is the voice of one of the characters, and I cannot just every time think it's Solid Snake is the guy, and it's totally not the guy, but you just hear Solid Snake, and it's just, how that goes.
I've heard that he said that before, like he tries to change up his voice best he can, but that's why he gets, limited voice work, is because that is so close to his voice.
It is. I mean, I think he just can't avoid. It's just who he is. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, like a lot of people get typecast. Like, you're never going to see David Schwimmer and not think Ross. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just never. He'll be like 90, and people will still do that.
Yeah, and he's directed some really good movies, and the best thing that I've ever seen him in that wasn't, that like didn't have me thinking, oh, that's David Schwimmer. I loved him in Band of Brothers. You really do buy him as that, kind of like awful, like like what EXO or Drill Sergeant or whatever he is. But yeah, you're absolutely right. But he's directed a lot of really good stuff, and
he was really good in that season of Curb Your Enthusiasm as well.
Yeah, I'm not the what was it? The producers.
Yeah.
Yep.
I saw him in a few episodes of it's another show. I can't remember the name. I think it's been canceled now, but I remember seeing him in a couple other ones. He played a boyfriend of a character on a sitcom. And it was just kind of cool to see him again because I kind of feel for those people that kind of end up in that spot and trying to do different
Don't
things.
need to feel for them. They're getting like $1 million an episode at the end there.
Oh,
They're
well,
doing just fine.
But I'm sure and a cut of the perpetuity of all
yeah,
that,
the
right?
royalties. Yeah, well, it's funny. Krabby mentioned Curb, and when you mentioned like the people who get typecast, because that's exactly what happened to what's his name, Costanza.
Oh yeah, I can see that big time.
And they
Alexander, Jason
yeah,
Alexander.
Jason Alexander, and they go into it a bit, and like he's like on the show, he's like, yeah, like I got some some directing, some writing, but he's like, yeah, the acting's coming pretty tough. Like everyone just sees George. I'm like, yeah, they do, and I would have thought it would have been tough for Louis Dreyfus, Julia, but she ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff, and then with Veep and but yeah, she's great. So I mean,
she was in Arrested Development too. Had a big role in that for a while.
Oh man, what was she like, blind?
The blind lawyer.
Yeah. Oh my god, it was so funny when she crossed her eyes. She's like, 7. So great. Speaking of that, let's go on 50 tangents on episode 50. A local brewery near me, Reverie Brewing, just put out a beer, like a banana flavored beer called "There's Always Money in the Banana Stand."
Oh, that's good. I get that reference.
I would totally watch a new George Costanza show. Just putting that out there.
For sure.
For me on this one, I think just since you just mentioned it, it's the one that pops to mind now. Is the recent Doom, like Doom 2016 or whatever it was.
Interesting.
I played it. There was the playcast, right? They did that, and I got through a bit of it. But it just got to the point where I'm like, I don't feel like I need to finish this, and I was good. I'm like, I know what this is, and I'm good enough, and it's okay.
Interesting.
And which makes me weird because like everybody praised that so much. I'm like, why am I not more loving this? But I guess it's probably like things like Red Dead and other things. It's just some things are for me and some things aren't, and that's cool.
Exactly. Yep. And it's
feel
funny.
About Saints Row too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I played it for the playcast too, just a year late. And so everyone had already gone through it, and I played it before I listened to the playcast episode. I think it was from last like October, November, so it is like about a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty universally liked. But like with any game, there's always gonna be people who it's like, oh, it's just not my jam. And the first time I tried to play it on console, I didn't get it. Like it didn't click with me, and it might just have been the controller, because the game is so fast, and the accuracy for me was lacking. The mouse keyboard was the thing that like pushed me over the hump, that like made me competitive, on that regular difficulty. So, but yeah, that's a good one.
Cool. Well, that's a good question. Thank you very much. And for everybody, if you are already, Josh does one of the sister podcasts on the site with the shooter group that's over there. So Shoot the Corecast. If you're not already listening and watching his stream for that stuff, you guys should definitely check that out. I feel kind of bad now with this new job. I have to get up so early. I'm probably not going to catch a lot of his streams. I used to kind of watch them in the evening, but I'll do what I can to keep an eye on those. But he puts them on YouTube too, so you guys can check that stuff out along with his reviews and everything else that he does. Speaking of sister podcasts, the defunct sister podcast on the site, RF Generation Nation, still exists. I think you can still go out there and listen to it if you want to. But our good friend, Mr. Adam, so Bickman2K on Twitter, he asked a couple questions. First off, he says, what would be the next classic mini console you hope someone would make? I don't think we've already talked a little bit about this, but what games do you wish were included that haven't been yet? What is left? Is like 3DO mini, or I don't know. I mean, Bill, what do you think? What should be there that's not already?
Yeah, I mean that's the question, is like, what is not there yet, right? So then you also have to be realistic, like there's probably not going to be a GameCube mini. It's
already pretty small.
Exactly, yeah, and
it has a handle.
Yeah, and it ran on disc, and even though you can emulate it, it's probably not like like the cheapest thing to make and put out. I think the N64 is likely. I think that would be I think that would be the, a cool one that you could do. I know everyone's expecting me to say the 32X.
You could get the whole library on it.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty impressive.
Exactly. It would, then that's what I was going to go next is one of two things. Number one, it has to have the whole library. It would be amazing if they could throw some of the CDX, the CD like combo games on there,
Corpse
like Fahrenheit
Killer.
and stuff. Yeah, Corpse and the Supreme Warrior. And it'd be really cool if they could get like some of the kind of like unreleased like Dark Side and maybe like Cool Spot, and I think there was a FIFA game that was like teased, and there's a demo out like floating out there, some of it wasn't released. But I mean, the only way that they could do it would be if they made it like physically fit on the Genesis Mini, right?
They're doing a mini Tower of Power, I think I heard. Pretty sure.
You can, in Japan, you can buy the little accessories for the new Genesis Mega. You can buy the Sega CD and the little 32X. They don't do anything. They're just cosmetic, but you can buy them.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
They look cool.
Yes.
They made ones for the US too, but they only sent them to influencers. We need to
influence me to buy one if I can't buy one.
Exactly. I'm like, just sell the doggone things, right? I'll put. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
what do you think? I'm sorry, Bill. Let me cut you
No,
off.
yeah. So I was saying I think the N64 is likely. I think we've talked about before that like the N64 was like just like in one of those like dead zones. It was kind of like after I was like really into kind of like the older style games, but it was like before like I really got into like the kind of like PlayStation era. So like it doesn't like hit that like nostalgia button for me. But I still think that would be a good one to continue like the little bit of the collector that's still in me. I do like having like my NES Classic, my SNES Classic. So like I'm kind of itching for like let's put another box next to those two, So that was what I was thinking along the N64 lines.
Cool. All right. Well, since you mentioned it though, he asked, what kind of game. So if you could pick a few games, I mean, maybe besides the ones for N64, right. What would you pick?
So you know what I actually always really liked on the N64?
Not a lot of deep dives on there.
No,
there's Beetle Adventure Racing on that system.
That is a really good game. It
is. I'm not joking.
I know. I played a lot of that.
So you know what I really do like on the N64 that doesn't really get a lot of love is what I think I've told this story before, maybe about playing San Francisco Rush like in the arcade in that like big green chair and like going like through the loop in Alcatraz.
Rush.
I really, really, really liked that experience in the arcade, and I remember like when San Francisco Rush came out on 64, I was excited for it. So that would be one that I would pop up, and like it would be that like I'd tell that to my kids every time we go through the loop. Hey guys, when Dad was a kid, we know.
Dad, you were never a kid. Please shut up.
Yeah, we listened to episode 50 of the Collectorcast. We know.
You made us in the car.
Yeah.
Still lullaby before bed.
So yeah, I mean, still besides the regulars, of course Mario and Zelda and stuff. But yeah, I'd like to see Rush on there, and it'd be nice to get the Beetle Adventure Racing.
Game is
Automobili Lamborghini.
just all racing games.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, what do you think, Krabby? What would you put out there?
I think the next batch we're going to see is more handheld stuff now before we see N64 is my hunch. But
okay.
I would personally like to see would be more of the like what they did with the Commodore 64, some more old computer ones. But specifically, I'd love for them to do like they could do regular ones that are just like the Commodore that plug into your TV. But I'd like them to do like a deluxe model that comes like with the monitor built onto the system, like they came in the old days.
Oh, you want the TRS-80 Mini?
Yeah, do TRS, do old Atari computers, like whatever. And game wise, like I'd like stuff because I don't know those platforms as well. I'd like this half like classic stuff and half stuff that's just obscure and weird and fun. No specific titles. Like if they threw a couple old games that I liked, like King's Quest or Civilization or something like that on there, that'd be fun. But if they had a whole bunch of stuff I'd never heard of, I'd be really happy with that too.
Cool. For me, it would have to be a Saturn Mini. I mean, I can't think of anything. I was really surprised when they announced the PC Engine TurboGrafx when I really did not expect that to happen.
So I mean, from Konami especially.
Yeah, in a magical land, that's me. I was saying, like, yeah, do that one next. And somebody, I don't know, somebody somewhere got Konami to wake up and do something. But, yeah, I mean, bravo, whoever pulled that one off, you know. But, yeah, I would think Sega Saturn might be trickier to do, but there's a PlayStation Mini, so, I mean, you know.
If they imported a bunch of stuff, too, and, like, translated it, that would be phenomenal.
Yeah, I want you to think of like what Konami has done with the title selection that the TurboGrafx and the PC Engine Mini are getting, and think of something like that for Saturn. So a lot of unique imports, maybe like, okay, we're going to give you the Saturn version of, you know, Castlevania.
If they just like localized the whole Shining Force 3, like people would lose their minds over that.
Yeah, or finally let people play Panzer Dragoon Saga without spending
like
a mint.
Radiant Silvergun that's worth a ton that's been like popular import for a long time.
Yeah, or even just some of the not so insanely and humanly priced shooters are really good. And you could throw on there's some good RPGs that are on that system that you could play. A lot of good action games. Yeah, I think that's it. I think so many people probably miss the Saturn.
And it's
first time
expensive to catch up on. Like
it is.
Just the staples are pretty pricey on that system these days.
Saturn prices have gone nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would love to see a Saturn Mini. So that's a really, really good question. And Adam didn't stop there. He thought for a minute and went, I got one more for you.
Real quick, before we leave the Saturn Mini,
do you
think it'd be really cool if they pulled a Sega and like released it without telling anybody?
On sale tomorrow.
When are you guys releasing it? Oh, like it came out yesterday. You just should go buy it.
It's in Toys R Us. Yeah,
I bet you that would sell like crazy these days because just people communicate much better. I think that would go. People go nuts for that.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. It's funny because like, and I don't, I know it's my job. I have to bring up Destiny like once per show, but like it's what they do in Destiny a lot of times is they'll just put these like on like a random day, like not even a reset day, just okay, like on like a Thursday, like we're dropping a secret quest and like it happens, and all of a sudden like Twitter goes nuts and like the subreddit goes nuts, and then like the people in my Discord are like, oh my god, there's a secret thing, right? So like I think it'd be really cool if somebody like guerrilla style like dropped a thing and was like, oh my god, it's here.
Oh, and ahead of their time.
And goes even crazier and does like the limited thing, like, oh, there's 10,000 of them, go.
Right. So, people are calling out of work and.
That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I'll cross my fingers. I mean, or I'll just play my own Saturn.
Yeah.
But,
I would have said the Turbo CD was a long shot. Like, if that can happen, I think the Saturn's actually in the realm of possibility at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could be. So, back to Adam, he asked us another one, which I think this is a really good question. He says, what's your favorite I have 10 minutes game to pick up and play? Like, just need a minute.
Yeah.
So, Krabby, what do you think?
I don't have one that has like persisted forever, but the one that I've been doing that a lot with in the last couple of months is Tetris 99. Really fun to just sit down with, 100 people playing Tetris and just see if you can be number one that round. It's a lot, really addictive. And that 10 minutes can often turn into more than 10 minutes.
I think that's the hard part sometimes with games is sticking to 10 minutes. And a lot of these times these days, by the time you boot a console up and everything else, it's like, oh, my time is gone by the time I launch the game.
It's frustrating. Even when you've got like half an hour and you have to like sit there through an update, like it just kills the momentum, kills the fun.
Absolutely.
The only saving grace for that, and like one of like my absolute favorite features of every console this generation, I believe like Switch, PS4, Xbox, like all do this. I mean, granted, it only works if it's the last game you were playing and it's like still running. But when I was playing God of War, I left the PlayStation 4 in the bedroom, and that was kind of like my bedroom game. And so I would like just pop in there, like real quick and just turn the TV on and hit the controller, and bam, like there I am. I'm like in God of War, like where I was. And then I can play for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then like, someone needs me and I just turn the TV off, like, like suspend the system or whatever. And then when I have another 10
the dots together of when that game came out, being in your bedroom and having a baby coming out soon, there's some kind of weird gore fetish.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably
like,
fair.
We're like, Sarah, call me boy one more time.
Oh, so good. It was actually a little while ago I played it, but yeah, the suspend and like reinstate. So like for me, my 10-minute probably pick up and play. There's a whole bunch that I could do. Like Skyrim takes a while to boot, so like I'd like to say that, but like it wouldn't. The Switch version wouldn't be like ready to play in that amount of time. PC is a whole lot quicker because I have the NVMe drive, and it's like super crazy fast loading up. But still, I would still say my pick up and play is probably right now Super Mario Odyssey, because there's still a lot of
Nice.
power moons that we do not have, and whether it's just me by myself, but more often it'll be like my son, because like a lot of times like anyone with kids knows it takes a little time to get out of the house. As the kids get older, it gets better, and you're like, all right, buddy, get your shoes. Like, okay, I'll go get them. Get your get all the stuff. But a lot of times, one like at a restaurant, like one kid's meal is ready before the other kid's meal, and like you got to kind of improvise. So sometimes if like Callahan's ready to go and Cameron's still like throwing a temper tantrum and hasn't used the bathroom or whatever, like it's a good thing for like, okay, just get one of the kids occupied for like just 5-10 minutes just so we can get out of here. And Mario Odyssey is what we'll do. We'll like pop it on, and I showed my son how to look at the map and be like, okay, like these are it's showing you that there's power moons here that you haven't found yet. So you can kind of spend like 5, 8, 10 minutes either just figuring out like where in this area is there a power moon that I haven't found, or actually like getting it. And my son knows at any given time, like, dude, how many we have? Oh, we have 594. Like anywhere in
Wow,
his
you're getting
life.
up there.
Yeah, yeah. So we and it wasn't all done like at once. Like we did like the main story, and then when it was over, it was kind of like, oh, that game was really fun. And like you know how like when you go to each world, like it like throws out like a whole bunch more power moons in like each
Yeah.
planet, like world area. So like we kind of visited each one to unlock all those. But other things come out, other games, there's other things in life happen, but like that's the one where like if we have 10 minutes and it's like, okay, like we just need to kill some time before like leaving, or if like we take the Switch with us and like we're waiting in the theater for a movie to start or something and we got there early, it's like, all right, let's get a power moon. So that's what we do with our 10 minutes.
I love that so much. That's awesome.
Yeah, the Switch definitely lends itself pretty well to that sort of stuff. For me, I think usually, I don't know if I would say like one go-to game per se, but like types of games. Like I think like like old school kind of shooters are the great kind of thing to just flip on, because I'm not usually fantastic anyway, and I can just shoot some stuff. I get some points, okay, and then I die, and everything's cool, and I don't have to worry about it or get frustrated or anything, because I only had a few minutes anyway, and it's just fun. And I'm like, okay, cool. I've taken out that little bit of energy I had, and I can roll on. Other games I do like that too sometimes is would be like some classics like Streets of Rage 2 or the original Castlevania, where I'll turn it on, I'll play until I die once or something, and I'll just turn it off because I'm like, okay, I know I can go through this thing if I want to. I just want to get the feel for it real quick. I want to get it, and I'm good. So those are the little sort of things that just are bite-sized to me, and I just want to get that taste again. I don't know if I want to commit, an hour or two always to that, but yeah, it's kind of fun.
I like how you said like you'll like play like till you die once. Do you guys ever do that? Like you turn a thing on and you're like, all right, when I die, I'm just shutting this off.
Yeah.
Wow,
I
yeah.
can't do that.
I'll do that like if I'm at my parents' house and like we're leaving and we're in a rush, and I'm like, oh well, my play choice 10 is here, so I'm like, we just play Contra. I'm just gonna play Contra until I die. And then like Sarah's like, come on, we gotta go, and I'm like, I haven't died yet.
Like, okay, it's like when you're a kid at the arcade, right? It's like, no, my quarter, I've still got it going,
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
I think that's it. There's got to be some bite-sized game. Like I know for some people it's probably phone games, but I don't play phone games, so
I haven't in a while, and a lot of people have been talking up the Apple Arcade, and I am not into just paying them $5 a month. Like I don't care how many games are in there, but it's been getting a lot of press, a lot of traction, and
What a good buzz, yeah.
yeah, and so I haven't like dug into it yet. I don't know how long the trial is, if it's just 1 month, but I'm almost afraid to start it because it's not for me, right? It would be like if we're and like we're getting better. Like if we're at a restaurant, like we've actually been to restaurants for like a couple hours where the kids like did not have any phones at all, which is like amazing because forever it had to be like, all right, dude, like you have to calm down because like people are gonna like run us out of here. But it would be like for them. And the last thing I need right now is just like my kids like everywhere we are in life, like, hey, can I play your phone? So but yeah, the phone is still kind of like we're still kind of tiptoeing, like trying to figure out how to do phone stuff, which I think we'll get into in a little bit.
For sure.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, rounding out to the last question, we've got our friend Wimpster. So he is at Wimpy with an I Animations. So Wimpy Animations on Twitter, and he asks about Untitled Goose. I've heard about this game, but he says Untitled Goose Game has been a surprise smash hit on the Switch. Are there any games that you played that you enjoyed way more than you thought you would? I'm just gonna throw it out there. Anybody?
Yeah, I mean he's right. It is really like popular, like smash hit, like kind of out of nowhere. I follow a couple developers.
I'm not sure I would agree with the surprise part. I heard a lot of buzz coming up to it.
I didn't hear anything until this game like just exploded on my Twitter feed, and just everybody was then talking. I didn't hear anything coming up to it.
Like IGN has like 3 different podcasts. They were all like very talkative about it, like for a month before it came out.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
It wasn't on my radar at all. It just kind of, I saw some goofy things, on Twitter about it, and I'm like, huh? What's this all about? And, where you basically you like try to like trip people or ruin people's day as a goose? That's the game, right? Which
Sounds
reminds me of like my kids
life.
like to play Goat Simulator, and it sounds like that.
Yeah, my brother-in-law was into that game, and like I'd heard about it, and I'm like, I mean, like I guess it's probably like just this weird like little niche thing. And then like I tried it, and I'm like, yeah, it is this weird little niche thing. Like it's not going to win any awards, but like, but yeah, this game, and I guess maybe it depends on like you're kind of like what your definition of like like the hype leading up to it. Like to me, like when I think of a game being hyped, like I know about it for like like 6 months, like half a year. So like I still feel like if it was hyped up for like a month before it came out, like yeah, it's got like a little bit of traction, but yeah,
it's good for an indie game though. Like
yeah, that's
like
true.
They were at an E3 press conference with Sony, Nintendo kind of thing.
Right. Well, was Sony there? It doesn't matter.
No, they weren't there this year at all.
But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But yeah, I had zero info about this game before it came out, and then like all of a sudden, like now you're seeing like stories about it, like oh, like the secret to their like amazing success deal. But I also have not played it, and my kids have not asked about it yet, which I guess is good. So kind of going off that, like what games have you played that you enjoyed way more than you thought you would? I mean, I have a pretty good idea because I don't I don't have a ton of time to play a ton of different things, kind of like I used to. So before I start playing a game, I kind of try to have a good idea of like is this the right game for me? I don't just kind of like throw up random things. But the what do you call it? I've mentioned before Outlaw Golf. I don't know why I gravitated to this game, but like it's just like a dumb little like arcade like style golf game that like it wasn't just like I played it a little bit, you guys. I played this game. I played this game so much, like so much. And I remember like reading reviews and like people were like, yeah, like it's an alright golf game, and I'm like, it's all right. It's a masterpiece. This thing is amazing. And I remember like like making like because like you got to pull the right thumbstick back for your wind up, and then you push it forward. The sensitivity, like the sweet spot that you have to like hit it straight forward is like minuscule. So like you'll hit it, and like it hooks off to the left, and you're like, what the hell is wrong with them? And then you look down, and your thumb is like still pushing the stick forward, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess it actually is going a little bit to the left. So like it's almost like Wii bowling, where like you would bowl, and then you're like, why is the ball like curving out like that? And then you're like, oh yeah, because like I guess my wrist is doing that, right? So man, I remember like once I got the drives down, and once I kind of figured the aiming out, and once I figured out like the putting, like I actually like for the first time in my life, I remember like just sitting up after like a match and thinking, I know why people like real golf now. Like it's just like
I don't think those two things are connected.
yeah, like I just thought it was the thing that like people with like a whole bunch of money and a whole bunch of free time did to like kill a day. I didn't realize that like you really are out there, like, and it's a lot of thought and it's a lot of skill and it's a lot of, but it's one of those sports where like it's like baseball where like the ball isn't in play for like most of the game. It's only in play like, very short like periods. So in golf it's like bing, that's it. There's nothing else to do for a little while. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry it's not a surprise answer. I know I've talked about it before, but honestly, I was not expecting to like just become an outlaw golf person.
At least it's not backyard wrestling that you're trying to defend here, so
It
it's
is
okay.
Does outlaw
not.
tennis and volleyball like live up to the franchise?
I
quality?
I thought that, I thought that they could keep the magic going. I've played both. They're not good, and even sadder, Outlaw Golf 2 is not great. So the voice of like the commentary in Outlaw Golf 1 is Steve Carell, and it's before
Oh,
Steve
that's
Carell
fantastic.
got like super famous. And there's a whole bunch of great one-liners, and like they're not funny if I say them because it's just Steve Carell saying them that makes them funny. Um, but like like there's these ones where like if you nail the ball at like 100%, it kind of like explodes off the tee, and there's like a little bit like a fire effect. And he talks, just the way he like yells, he's like wowie zowie, like just like in Steve Carell's voice. It's so good. It's like talk about knocking the skin off the ball. Oh, it's just thinking about it, so good. So, and then after Outlaw Golf 1, they could not get Steve Carell because he was unavailable because he became too famous for them. And so the guy they got to
They
replace him in
can.
Outlaw Golf 2 was Dave Attell. And I like Dave Attell a lot. He's a really funny guy, but he kind of comes across like Dave Attell when he does the
Yeah.
voice, and he just seems like really uninterested and like kind of condescending, and like it just didn't have the same vibe. So I was not into Outlaw Golf 2 or volleyball or tennis, but we can all agree that Outlaw Golf 1 and the like the Burger King special games, like the nine
Oh
holes of
no.
Christmas and like the nine more holes of Christmas. And there, oh no, not Burger King. I'm sorry, Blockbuster. Blockbuster Video had a couple of like like nine like kind of like a back nine, like it was like nine holes of Christmas and nine more holes of Christmas, I think, were the two extra ones. And I'm pretty sure Steve Carell did those too, and it's actually different voices, sorry, different script for it. So they're worth picking up. And then when the Xbox Mini comes out, they can have the entire Outlaw Golf trilogy on that.
I'm surprised for the second one they didn't get Dana Gould. I'm sure he was out of Gex work by then. So it's. Well, I don't know, Krabby. It was hard to top Outlaw Golf, but you got anything you think?
I can't top it, but I do have one.
Okay.
So I constantly forget how much I love strategy games because they are so hard to start. So one that I played recently that reminded me and surprised me how much I enjoyed it was Mule on the NES.
Oh,
Sure.
okay, yeah.
Apparently it's an old Commodore game that they ported over,
Yep.
but there's like no combat to this game. You are mining a new planet for resources against 3 other players. And then after you've done your mining round, you have like an auction where you're buying and selling the resources that you've all accumulated. So your population needs like food and energy to keep going. And then there's some ore that you can like sell for profit. And so I had a really great time playing it for a couple of days to try and figure out which resources were more useful early on and later on, and how to get the most property on this planet, because there's a certain number of grids you could do. And it's really fun auctioning items, often like really tense, like waiting to see if they're going to buy, if who needs it this round. Like, and it was, I don't know, I always get really into those games, but they're hard to start. So I don't often start them, but I find they're worth the investment. I just can't make myself start that investment too often. So yeah, Mule on the NES, check it out.
Interesting. I didn't know you had that opinion of the strat games.
I do, and it happens every time I play one, which they're
Right.
mostly on the NES because I'm trying to go through that library. But
Sure.
like I played Overlord on the NES and love it. It's one of my favorite NES games now, and nobody talks about it because I don't think anybody's sat down to really dig into it, and it's pretty interesting once you do.
Is Nobunaga's Ambition a strat game?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've played some Koei games too, and same thing. Like once you're like 10 hours in, it's like, wow, now I'm really into this. And yeah, like it's a slow burn at first though.
The first, like, what you'd probably consider like strategy game like that I played was on the Genesis, and I was at a kid's house, and he was like, "Have you ever played? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but has you ever played Herzog's Wii?" And I'm like, "No."
That's a
Like,
hard one to pronounce.
it's like, "No." I'm like, "Well, that's what he said, so that isn't me saying it. That's what he." But I was like, "No, like, what the hell is that?" And then he showed me, and I didn't even play it. I just watched him play it, and it like hurt my head thinking about like all the things he was doing. And I tried it, and I'm like, no, this isn't for me. And it wasn't until years later when I like started playing like Civ 5 that I was kind of like, oh, like I get strategy now. And then like I started going back and like playing some of the old stuff. But it's funny you say that, because it's funny for me in games like Civ that I love. I love the very beginning. I love like starting with nothing and like placing the capital, and like what am I going to do first, and how am I going to do this, and how am I going to like defend from the barbarians, how like who am I going to ally with, who am I going to go against, how am I going to build my navy. And then when I get to kind of like the middle of the game where it's like, okay, now I've built like 9,000 things, like what do I do now that I have to, because like in early on, like your first turn will be like, okay, do one thing, and then like your fifth turn will be, okay, I got to do two things. But by the time you're at like turn like 147 in Civ, it's like you have to manage like 74 units or whatever. I'm like, man, it's just gonna take me like 20 minutes to do like one turn. Like I don't know if I can do this. So like for me, the very very beginning is the most exciting, and then it kind of like it starts to drag a bit for me in the middle, and then in the end it kind of comes together.
Yeah, no, I need that loop. Like I need to learn it and
Yep.
keep going. And if it gets slightly more complex each time, which it does in most games, I don't mind that because I've slowly built up to that.
Yep.
I didn't like get dropped right into that. So I enjoy that. Like even combat, like kind of like Red Alert and Dune, those kind of games. Same way, like I hate starting them, but halfway through the game, I realize I'm having so much fun all of a sudden.
So cool.
Yeah, I've been trying to think, on this stuff, and I think the one that comes to mind somewhat recently is the game that Bill and I were kind of talking a little bit about. So, Ghost Recon Wildlands. I remember when that game came out. I've got a buddy that plays those kind of games all the time, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, you got to get this! It's so good, man! This is awesome. You got to play this." And I was just like, maybe I'll check it out. And I just really didn't pay any attention to it. And eventually it was like on GameFly, super cheap. And I kind of remembered him talking about it, but this, it was probably like 6 months or something after it came out by then. And I picked it up and thought, like $20 or whatever it is. I'll give this thing a shot. And I played the crap out of that game. I mean, I did like everything that you can do in that one. I mean, I didn't do like, I know they have like extra content that came out, afterwards, because they've kept it alive with new stuff and everything. But I really played the crap out of that game, and I really enjoyed it. And I've never really enjoyed a Ghost Recon game like that before. So because I just played, I remember like the original like Graw and stuff like that, and those were always like, yeah, it's okay, I'll pass. But yeah, man, Wildlands was really good, and I'm hearing maybe not as good things about Breakpoint that just came out, which makes me a little sad inside. So maybe it'll be another $20 GameFly game 6 months from now, and maybe I'll be really excited because maybe they'll fix it by then. I don't know.
Yeah, I got into not Breakpoint. I got into Wildlands. I think either on your recommendation or like I got it cheap, or it was I forget what it was, but situation where I got it, but I acquired it, and you had told me it was really good, and it was similar thing. Like it's I don't want to make people think that it's anything like Far Cry, but like it is
No.
in the way that like you're like okay, you got to like go clear this base out. But
Yeah.
like Far Cry is like a completely different like gameplay loop that's kind of like weirder and crazier. So this is like more realistic and like the the Tom Clancy like the Ghost Recon universe, and it's squad based. So like you kind of got to learn the loop where like you deploy your drone, you tag all the enemies, like you earn like upgrade points, you get better weapons. Like you find a lieutenant, you interrogate him. It puts more like kind of like waypoints on your map, like more stuff you can do, more upgrades, more like so. It's just like this never-ending kind of like loop. And the map is absolutely enormous. Like
It
even
is.
like a helicopter flying across it at like 120 knots or however fast the helicopters go. It takes like
7
forever.
picas, I think.
And so you have to fast travel. And I really really do like the game. It does frustrate me more than a lot of other games like that I would kind of compare that to, at least in like a Far Cry sense for like a base clearing or even like a Rainbow Six Vegas type game. The checkpoints, in my experience, are super unforgiving. Like I'll
They
get
are.
like entirely through like an entire like like story mission, and then it'll be like okay, like you'll flip a switch and it's like okay, now you gotta like there's a guy, you have 4 minutes to go rescue him, and it's like oh geez, and it's like across the map, so you gotta like find a helicopter real quick that might be guarded by 40 dudes, and then
Yep.
fly away in the helicopter, and then you make it to the guy, but he's in the middle of a room and he's like in the middle of a crossfire, and like one of your like AI guys shoots him, and it's like okay, you failed, and you have to go back to like the beginning of the mission that's like 15 minutes long. It's like dude. So there's a whole bunch of times where I've been like like drop the controller, like I'm not playing this. But then like 15 minutes later, I'm just thinking about it and I'm like, I know I can do that,
Yep.
so
Yep.
but yeah, it's really really cool with the sync shot where like you line some guys up and then you either just tell them to engage or you engage. It really puts a ton of responsibility on you to make sure you like find all the targets, because if you stealth do everything, it's really rewarding to be able to clear out a whole area like without having to like set off an alarm. But like if one dude sees you, like it all goes to hell, and like you could save it or you could just kind of like just die and like restart. But it's weird because it's one of these games that I really enjoy playing, but the game is massive, and it kind of depends on I forget who said this, but one of the YouTube guys that I was watching just on the game was like, it's basically it knows exactly what it is. It's this like kind of 5 to 10 minute gameplay loop, and how much you play of it depends on how much you like or can tolerate that loop, because it's over and over and over again. So if you
It
love
is.
that gameplay, you're gonna be good. And it's almost like for me, it's almost like what you said with Doom. I have played a ton of it. I enjoyed what I played of it. I don't like need to turn it on like today or tomorrow, but if I, like in a week from now, if I decide, what, I'd like to play that, like I would totally fire it up and like, clear out like one or two little areas. So it's an interesting game.
Yeah, it's very tactical, which I don't mind the slow burn, because I'm not Mr. Crazy Shooter guy. So being able to use my noggin instead of like being perfect with my right stick or something, to get the headshot is a little more my style. But yeah, so it's been out there for a while. I'm sure you can get it for like nothing these days. So if that's something interests you.
I would have thought that, because I was like, well, now that I got this, I got an ultra wide monitor recently, so now I'm like looking for like, oh, some cool games I can play on this thing. So I go to look at it on Steam, and it's $50. I'm like, dude, Breakpoint comes out like tomorrow. How is Wildlands $50, right?
It's
And
probably because you're looking on Steam. If you looked on Ubisoft's like own store, maybe you'd get a deal or something.
I'll take a look as you continue, and I'll let you know.
Who knows? I think they've got something now, though, don't they? Like Ubisoft has one of those like pay so much and play all you want sort of things now too. Everybody's doing that, I think.
Yeah, I know EA does. I don't know if I've heard of.
I think for
Ubi.
PC, Ubisoft does, but well, you could check it out. I don't know if it's any good
Yeah,
or not. But
they have a launcher. I'm not sure about service, but I will verify that too.
Here you go. So I just want to thank everybody very much for taking the time to send in some questions. It's always a lot of fun, and I will also say that you don't have to wait until I put out the call. if you just want to throw some out there, I can always jot them down, and we can come back to them later. So if something hits you, or you're listening to this and you want to fire something off, please feel free to do so. Well, believe it or not, guys, we actually have a topic. And we have something else to get through, too. So
It is shopping on Steam versus Epic, Part 1.
Yeah. So I think before, or maybe we won't even get to our topic at some point in time before we run out of steam and time here. But I did want to hear, and I think probably our listeners want to hear too, about the Retroworld Expo recap since we weren't there.
That's right.
So regale us, Bill, about you being a terrible husband.
Yes, I will gale you again. Get it?
I get it.
I'm regaling. Okay. So for those who are not aware, I am no longer I was an original partner and owner of Retroworld Expo. Chris, a very good buddy of mine, came to me with the idea. We were the first two in it. And we always talk about this. We remember the first meeting. We were like let's figure this thing out, and we brought like a dirty yellow like legal pad to like a pizza shop in and we just sat there at probably like 8 o'clock at night till like 1 in the morning, just like jotting down ideas like freehand on a pad, and it was like one of the coolest nights ever. And it was kind of one of those things like when you get together as kids and you're like with your friends and you're like, we're going to make a spaceship and it's going to have like rocket boosters and it's going to have this. And it almost seemed like it wasn't even real. You were just like doing it because it was fun. And then like it actually became a thing. So Lance and John from Retroware TV ended up joining. Another buddy of ours, Dan, ended up joining, and that was the original 5. So we did that show at the Oakdale in Connecticut for a couple of years, and then it grew to the Connecticut Convention Center in Hartford. And last year, Chris ended up moving his whole family and out to California, sold the stores that he had here in Connecticut, opened up a new store out there. And we were all kind of thinking, with him being long distance and with us, me and Lance both have, kids, and I have more, another kid coming. We kind of thought, okay, like, it's time to move on. Like, we'll maybe see if we can, get a buyer for this thing. And long story short, what ended up happening is they decided they were going to move forward and, give it one more year. And I was kind of like, listen, guys, I'm really, I can't give this the attention it deserves. And I don't want to half-ass it. Excuse my language. So, I ended up selling my shares back to them. So this is my first, it's kind of bittersweet. It's my first year having like zero involvement with the show, like no planning, no, kind of like recruiting volunteers, going and doing like, marketing, going to other shows and like, hanging up banners and telling people, oh, come to our show, this and that, doing the cheerleading type deal. So it was really cool not to have to do like dozens and dozens of hours of work, hundreds of hours of work during the year. But at the same time, like, it's kind of like you're like removed from this thing that like you kind of helped build. So it was a little bittersweet, but yeah, I've no regrets at all. The guys did a fantastic job. They're back at the Connecticut Convention Center, and it was a 2-day show again. So it was a Saturday and Sunday. And I was planning on going Saturday, staying, overnight at the hotel with my buddy Dan, who used to be a partner in the show, and then, going Sunday as well, and then coming home. But 2 things happened that reminded me that I couldn't do that. one of them was the woman I married reminded me that was the day of her, of the baby shower. So my first thought was like, I'm gonna figure out a way to do this. And honestly, like, so at first I was like, okay, we'll figure this out. But then I called her up. I thought about it a little while. I'm like, listen, you're not gonna want Callahan there anyway, right? And she's like, yeah, I guess you're right, but like, who's gonna watch our little guy? And my dad was kind of around. He's like, oh, I'll do it. So honestly, it was not a point of contention at all between me and my wife. We're still married, and so yeah, she had a fantastic shower. There's actually a little funny side story I'll tell about that. But so the day of the expo, I wake up and it's just kind of leisurely. Like, you wake up at like 8, whatever clock we get up, and kids get up and we have our coffee, and it's like, okay, I have my dad is picking up the cake for my wife's baby shower, and he's gonna, he was gonna bring the cake home, and then it was just a weird plan. So I was like, dude, I'll meet you at the cake place, and then you just take Cameron, and I'll take the cake back to, my place. Oh, that works. So I met him. We said, hey, everything's good. I handed off, my little guy. got back to the house. My sister was there. She was getting ready for the shower. And I remember it was a very similar feeling to when the first time I went shopping on Black Friday after I had worked retail. Because, like when you work retail,
You know what? The secret sauce and all that.
oh man, the days leading up to Black Friday are stressful, and like like the day before, it's like, oh my god, like am I remembering everything? Like, did I get the cash? Do I get the thing? And who's
Yeah.
got the wristbands? And where are the badges? And it's just all the stress of that. And then like a couple years later, you're just like a regular old 9 to 5er shopping on Black Friday. You wake up at 8, 9 o'clock, like I'll go to Best Buy when I get there. We'll have a nice lunch. We'll get some things. We'll go home. So it was like kind of like you did the same thing, just at like a leisurely pace. So my sister said, like how like happy are you like not to have to be working it? I'm like, oh my god, like the most happy. Like it reminded me of no more Black Friday. So we roll into the Expo Center probably around like 11:30. Once we kind of get everything settled, and we get in and I just walk up to the box office, and the two girls who have worked in the box office like every year that we've done the show, they kind of see me like standing in line, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "This is what you do, right? You just stand in line for the exercise." So I walk up, and they just they gave us a couple badges and or the wristbands, so we get in, and first thing we see is Russ Lyman's car
Oh yeah.
in the lobby. And Russ is there. He's got his camera. He's chatting with people like the way he always does. He's a real good, real nice guy. And so Callahan runs over and he's like, "Can I have my picture taken with the car?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So we take his picture with the car, and Russ like kind of hasn't seen him yet. So and he's met Russ. Like Russ has been to the house and he's in Connecticut for people who are not familiar, and he's been to the house and like the kids will run out and like because the car's not just done up on the outside, it's done up on the inside too. So he gets in there and he sees all the details with like the pipes and like the little Mario figures and like the Nintendo in there and stuff. So he's kind of like just exploring the car for a bit, and then he sees Russ and kind of gives a fist bump and we get some pictures. Um, and then it's like, all right, like this is our little pre-expo, like hello, and like now we're going inside. So we got inside, and I knew that once he saw like the arcades and like the games and everything, like that was going to be the end of the day. So I was like, dude, like let's just walk the floor a little bit. Like, do you want to buy something? Do you want to buy a game or something? He's like, no. What do you mean no? You don't want to buy it? He's like, no. He's like, do you remember last year they had a whole area with games and you could play them? And I'm like, yeah, no, that's where we're going in a little bit. Like it's not open yet. Like it opens in like an hour. He's like, oh, okay, you let me know when it opens. So like we kind of walked a little bit, but like as soon as we got to the middle aisle, you could kind of see like from the angle, like you could see like some arcade, like some screens on some arcade machines, and he was like, oh, it's open. So I wrote a like a short blog article for RF Gen if anyone's curious to look at like my wall of pictures there. But
some great photos on there.
Oh, thanks, man.
Did he pick the Kingdom Hearts hat, or did you force that on him?
So we had actually played Kingdom Hearts 3. I started playing it kind of on my own, and then I would honestly say, even though like I was sitting there the whole time while the game was played, I think he played it more than I did. And like I like watched him play it, and he would just be like, "Oh, you got to fight this boss for me." So he played a ton of Kingdom Hearts 3, and I got him the hat at when we were at PAX East earlier this year, like March, I think it was. We wanted to get him and Cameron something, so we found this place that had hats. So we got Cameron like just like a red Mario like baseball style hat, and we got him the Kingdom Hearts hat. And I asked him, I was like, "Do you want to wear like a hat?" And he was like, Kingdom Hearts, Kingdom Hearts." So yeah, that was and he stopped.
That's really sweet.
He stopped every Kingdom Hearts cosplayer that we saw, and there was a couple of stands that were selling Keyblades, which I kind of it was both. Like I kind of wanted him to see them, but I also like didn't want him to like be really sad if we didn't buy like $100 like Keyblade replica. But he was cool with that. But yeah, there's an article on RF Gen if you want to see some pictures. I put some of him in there last year, which is a little bit shorter, wearing the same actually the same shirt because he just wanted to wear his Mario shirt. But yeah, once we got to the game area, that was all he wanted to do. So We played Bubble Bobble, which he never played before. We played
I got to play Bubble Bobble with my son at that expo.
Oh, also, it was probably on the same, probably the same copy,
Very well could have
because they
been.
just go into storage and then they get brought out for the show, I think. So, but yeah, so we played ball, and like he had never played it, and I guess I never like put that together that the only games that he's played, I think, on the original Nintendo were at the expo. I don't know if we've ever. Oh no, we definitely have hooked up the Nintendo at the basement in my parents' house, but never played Bubble Bobble. And so we played that for a little bit, and it took him a little bit to kind of realize, kind of like some of the nuance that like once you get down to the last dude, he's going to start going really fast. And then he started like freaking out, like, oh, he's coming for me. He's angry. He's so angry.
Those whales are terrifying when they pop up too.
Yep. So that was really, so we probably played it a couple times until he got like it down, and then we're like, okay, like now this one's for real. But he's just the kind of kid, like he can stay focused on something, but if there's depending on the game, if there's a break in the game, he'll just kind of like look and like, oh, I see something shiny over here. And then so Street Fighter 2 on the Super Nintendo, and
It's pretty shiny,
which he knows from the classic. So he actually they brought the, like when my wife took the kids down to Florida a little while back, they took the SNES Classic just because they didn't want to take the Switch, and like my wife didn't want to travel with it. She like didn't trust herself, like just her with the Switch with the two kids. She didn't want it to be like a fight on the plane and blah blah blah. So they took the Classic, that way they'd have something to play like at Grandpa's house. And apparently they played a ton of Street Fighter 2.
Well,
So
yes.
yep. So he chose wisely. So but it's crazy because like if you look at this little like kind of like animation I put in there, a little GIF is he just presses one button. It's like a medium punch or like light punch, and I'm just walking into him like, and it took like 38 minutes for him to like beat me. But like he's dancing, he's moving, and then when he knocks me out, he like just like, ah, yes, I win, I win, I win, I win. And then like, so right after we played that, I looked over in the corner and they have a Dynamo showcase with kind of like the granddaddy. They have Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So I was like, dude, do you want to play on the big machine? And he was like, what do you mean? And I kind of pointed over and got his attention, and he ran over there. And I didn't get any video over here. I wish I did, but we got on the big guy, and he was Blanca. I was E Honda, and once he fit, like I showed him because he was just pressing like one button, and I'm like, so dude, like these are your punches, these are your kicks. Like Blanca's kind of crazy, so like he does some backflips and some crazy stuff. So I showed him the electricity, so he started doing that. And then I was like, what's easy? I was like, oh, like the like the head bite. So I was like, here, just come up to me and like press that button. And then when Blanca started biting, oh man, that kid laugh where like they like lose control of their voice.
Yeah.
He did like almost like screeching like ha, 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 like I'm biting you. And then since I was E Honda, I grabbed him and I was squeezing him like huh, 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 and he was like, oh no. And it really is crazy like seeing it through their eyes, because like on the one hand, like it really takes you back to like when you kind of play these games, but also like there's something kind of like cool and pure about it where like there isn't that, because you think that, and maybe it'll happen when they get a little bit older, but like you think that they'll be like, oh, like these games, like they're not as shiny as the high def stuff we have. It's not like the Switch, it's not like the Xbox, but like it does not matter to these kids. Like they pick it up, it's a game, it's fun, they like it, and that's it. So that was kind of like my whole takeaway of the day with him. We played some pinball, which he's not like really good at, but he still wanted to play. And he's kind of like just like slaps both buttons at the same time.
Yeah.
But also like he's hitting like way too early. So he's hitting so early that like the ball will come down, and then he's just like hopping it like over the flipper, like straight into
The drain.
into death. But yeah, he played some Monkey Ball. He played Sunset Riders. I'm just kind of going through like the blog article here. We played. He loves. I wanted to try to see if we could play through Ninja Turtles, but not only was that machine like really popular and like tied up for a lot of the day, he just wanted to play like Pac-Man over and over again. And after
It's a good game.
Pac-Man, yeah, I've heard good things. It's so we played Pac-Man, and what's cool about Pac-Man is I try to kind of put myself in his like eyes, like literally. So like as an adult, you're standing and like you're kind of looking down at the screen and you can hear it, but it's not like, it's not like, you're not like in there, right? So like I realized that like his head, like he's kind of like partially because he's shorter, but also because he's like leaning forward, he's like in that box, right? So just for like a minute, I kind of like leaned my head like into the box, like where the monitor, because the monitor's kind of like laying down like slightly and vertical in Pac-Man, and you put your head in there, and because of like the wood sides of the cabinet, it's really loud in there because like the music from Pac-Man is just reverberating in that wood, but also you're just so much closer. And I'm like, dude, it is such a different experience playing Pac-Man with your head like in that cabinet. So next time you get a chance, be the weird guy with his head completely inside the Pac-Man cabinet. Um, we played some Mario on a versus cab for a little bit, and that's around the time I ran into Isret, our very own Anthony from RF Gen. He had his son with him, Rowan, who I think has been to every show, at least every one that I can remember. And so we chatted for a little bit, and he mentioned that he saw Will and Pam. I unfortunately did not run into them. I was only there for like kind of like half a day, but happy birthday, Pam! This is I think we're recording this on your birthday.
Yeah, right around here.
Yeah,
She's
right
been
around this
posting on
time.
Twitter today.
Yep. So happy birthday to Pam. Check out her YouTube channel, Cannot Be Tamed. And but yeah, it was just so. But honestly, I was expecting to. I brought the Switch because I was expecting, okay, if I go to a panel, then that way, like I could at least have him, like be doing Power Moons or something. But really, like there was a couple times when we kind of like pulled away from the main floor. Like we ate, we had some chicken fingers, and they actually on the special event stage they did some bands, which is kind of cool. But they also for the first time had a local like video game like symphony orchestra, which like I'd never heard of these guys. They're in Norwalk, which is just like 20, 30 minutes from me, and I'm like, well, how could there be like a video game symphony orchestra in Norwalk? So I didn't know what to expect, and we saw them play, and it's like, dude, they're really good. And like they were all kind of like it was a fairly young crowd, but it was really like I don't know how many pieces it was, but it was like a good like 35 40 piece like kind of like symphony up there, and they were playing everything
Wow.
from like Mario to like I have some video that I didn't post there, but they were like, oh, we know this isn't, it's like a retro show, and this is kind of newer, but it's kind of like, one of the big indie games in the last number of years. They played stuff from Undertale. They played some Mega Man. Uh, I don't think they played Mega Man 4, Krabby, unfortunately, your favorite. And
Hey, Skullman's got a sweet feet.
so, but yeah, they definitely. And the thing is, like, it's weird because like the Mega Man songs, but sometimes like when it's not played on the original instruments, it sounds kind of you're like, what is that? So like from across like the entire hall, I heard like on like flutes and like like other instruments like da down 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 da 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 da. You're like, what is happening over there? But it was really really cool, and Callahan actually really enjoyed sitting and like listening to that for a bit while we ate. But it wasn't too long before it was like, okay, like we got to go back. So we walked the show floor a little bit. I ran into like a handful of people that that I know just throughout the years. And that's most of my experience at the show since I really really wanted to go to the after party. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention earlier, Callahan had hockey on Sunday morning, so I couldn't stay overnight because I had to get him back for hockey by like 8:30 in Danbury, which is like an hour and 10 minutes away. And excuse me. So not only did I have to get him back, but the after party is 21 and over or 18 and over because they have drinking and stuff like that. So I was really hoping to go to the after party because that's where like a lot of like the hanging out and like play some arcade games. There's a DJ, have a couple of drinks. There's in past years they've done a drink and draw. Which is like you find like an artist that you really like. They have like a ton of them at the show. One of them, our friend Antoinette, the RF Gen guys have commissioned multiple times over the years to do custom artwork. We've Krabby's gotten pieces from her. Adam, I think Adam was Ness, right?
Well, no, Adam bought one for me, and then I bought one for him.
Oh, right. That was the great exchange.
Adam got the one for me too. Me and my son that year. My son was Mega Man and I was Dr. Wily.
Doctor, yep. Oh, you weren't Dr. Light?
No,
So
it's the good doctor.
right. But yeah, so yeah, the drink and draw, basically you find like an artist that you really like, or you kind of sample some of their work, and you're like, you know what, I like your work. I'd like to buy you a drink, and in exchange, you will draw something for me. And it's this really cool event where, like, they're like, okay, I'm drinking wine, and like, you go buy them a wine, and then you're like, what do you want? And then they'll just like do a little sketch for you. And if you want them to continue with the sketch, okay, like, get me another drink. Like, I'll continue the sketch. So it's kind of cool. You get some really interesting, like, unique pieces of art that way, and it's just a fun hangout. So unfortunately, I was not able to make it to the after party this year because of just our home situation. But the show was great. I heard great things from people about the tournament area was great. They had a bunch of Smash going on. They had I think some Brawl, as well as some Melee Smash happening. They also have, like, kind of like, they call it like the Ultimate Gamer Challenge, which is a really cool idea, that they have kind of like 10 stations set up, and you kind of go to each station. And I think they did this last year. I didn't get a chance to go over and see it. But basically, like, so one station might be like Mario 64, and it's like, okay, like, go to this area and get down this slide, and like the fastest time is like 10 points. The second fastest time of the day is 8 points. So you kind of go to like each station, and it's kind of like the wizard, right? Like, you do as best you can in each game, and then at the end of it, it's like, okay, like, here's the winner of the Ultimate Gamer Challenge. So like, you kind of did the best, like, across all these games. So there's some really cool things coming out of it. But yeah, I mean, we had a great time. Callahan had a blast. We ended up going to the barbecue place that we've been to the last couple of years.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. We got there just before the crowd kind of kicked in there. It's a little disappointing. One of my favorite local draft beers. I ordered it. It had just kicked, which I feel like that's like my nickname, is like, because I'll go places and I'm like, okay, give me that, and without fail they come back 5 minutes later. That just kicked.
What does that mean? I don't know that term.
The keg. So because draft beer is in kegs, and when the keg is out, like, it's kicked. Like, there's no more beer left in that keg.
Okay.
So they come back and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, like, it just kicked. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll have something else then. But yeah, so but I honestly was expecting to buy some stuff, to get some like original Xbox or PS2 games, like something that we like have at home, that we like, oh, like, you just spent all this time like playing like GameCube and PS2 and like old stuff, like, let's get something. But he really could not be pulled away from the free play arcade area, so that's where we spent most of the time, and it was a really cool show. They had a lot of cool stuff going on, and in the future I'd be excited to go back and maybe make it to the after party again.
Well, hopefully your wife will not be with child next year. So
yeah,
God of War in the bedroom.
Yeah, I would be surprised. And people keep asking too. They're like, oh, so because we have 2 boys and we're having another boy, and people keep asking. They're like, oh, so you gonna try again for that girl? And my answer is like, yes, of course we will. And my wife's answer is, give me a break. So we'll see. We're not closing the door on anything, so we'll see what the future brings.
I tried 3 times to have a boy, and then I'm done.
Yep.
Got one of each, real easy. I don't know what you guys' problem is.
I got one-way shooters. That's all I can say. I don't know what to tell you.
What game are you playing in the bedroom?
God of Love.
You're playing Leisure Suit Larry?
Little Katamari, just rolling around in the hay.
Oh, that's good.
Well,
yeah.
That's a good report. I'm glad to hear it, and like I said, I really hope I will really try to get. This year, like, literally, I started a new job, like, the day after that weekend, and it was just not going to happen. Right. But hopefully next year it'll work out. I'd like to try to make it back out again.
Yeah, no, Krabby. So Krabby's been out to both the Oakdale version and the Connecticut Convention Center. Adam's been out. Isret lives just in Massachusetts, so he's not far away. So Anthony's been out here. Rich has come up, which has been awesome. And a couple of years ago, he said he was like on the like every other year plan. Because I think he said he has like a guy's weekend or like a
Yeah, he
trip.
is a guy thing.
He has like a trip that they do either that same time of year or like maybe every other year. So like he kind of like alternates. So, but yeah, it really is amazing. And Travis mentioned it on the 1 year old episode of the Playcast that I listened to. That it really was cool meeting a whole bunch of the guys that we kind of that he had known through the forums, and was kind of nervous because he had never met, but like a lot of them had. But it really is kind of like just like seeing an old friend, even though you never met before, because like all the dudes are like, kind of similar interests, and everyone's really welcoming, and everyone just wants to have fun at the expo together. And it's kind of what like kind of gets that like that almost like expo addiction, where like when an expo is over, like for me, like PAX East, like when it's over, I'm like, okay, how do I fly to to Seattle for the next PAX? How do I go to Australia? How do I go to South? Like you just want more of it, right? So, but yeah, it's awesome getting to see people when they're able to kind of all kind of descend on an expo like that. So whether it's this one or whether it's a different one in the future, it'd be great to get a group of guys together.
Yeah, I always have so much fun. Like you said, it's really easy. Everyone just kind of fits together real nice, and it doesn't feel like anyone's out.
No, definitely. And even though Rich almost got abducted by a stranger by getting in the wrong car.
That was such a great
know.
story. I don't know if we ever talked about that on the show.
Well, I think we did.
Did we? Okay. So good. Like so, the 30-second version. So I'm picking. I'm leaving to pick up Rich at at the airport. Just like 45 minutes from my house. And Chris is like, oh, like I'll go with you. Like you don't have to drive alone. So oh, cool. So we get in the car and we're going, and we get to the airport, and we're driving up, and it's kind of like like a drive around, and like we see him, and we're like, oh, like that's definitely him. And
Yeah.
he's talking to someone, and he gets in their car, and we're like, I guess that's not him. Like that's that guy was. I was like, we're driving around, and like, wasn't he like a dead ringer for Rich, like for real? And then we kind of drive around again, like we call him, and he's like, oh yeah, like I'm here. And then we get him, and then it wasn't like a few minutes. We're like, yeah, like we thought we saw you, and then like, but then that guy got into a car, and you're like, I got into a car. Like they had a miscommunication. Like I guess it was an Uber driver, and he was like, oh, like hey, are you? He's like, are you? Like, did Bill send you for like Bill Retroworld? And the guy's like, yes. It's like, oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah, very good. And like he does like a laugh, and he's like, wait, I don't think I'm in the right car. Oh, that was
There's
great.
been a few adventures. We had to go pick up Eric from Germany. We're like, we don't even know what the guy looks like. Or
That was
that's right.
hilarious because there was all the places we could have picked him up, and the first one we tried, he's just standing right there.
he's walking
Awesome,
the
'cause
door, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh.
we were expecting to be walking up and down all the pickups, and yeah,
It wasn't even tricky. He was just like, hi guys. Just like,
Yeah, no, and
Hey.
Eric's a great dude. He was able to make it to one of the shows at Connecticut Convention Center. Also, his girlfriend came out. She was very nice. There's another funny story that he was staying at my house, and him and his girlfriend,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my mom did not know this. And there was one morning where Eric wasn't feeling well,
Yeah, he
so
was sick.
he texted us. He's like, "Hey, like I'm really not feeling well. Like I'll catch up with you guys later at the show." I'm like, oh, "Okay, no problem. Like feel better. Like we'll see you in a bit." And so my mom shows up at my house and just walks in because like why wouldn't she? And Eric's girlfriend is in her pajamas, like in the kitchen. So she walks in and she's like, "Hey." She's like, "Oh, I am a friend." So yeah, it was awesome, and Eric was very very nice. He shot a message to me on Facebook Messenger like, oh, good luck with the show and this and that. So it's really great. We've seen Eric a couple times. He comes for like an extended holiday to the States, and it's always great to see him. And yeah, would love to see him again in the future too.
he was really funny too.
Yeah, for sure. Like low
Great
key.
sense of humor.
Yeah, low key, like dry funny, but like yeah, really. And that's right. We did a recording when he was here. Like we're like sitting in the dining room doing it, and I remember like he was so nervous because of his language skills. And I remember telling him, like, dude, I was like, dude, like, you don't need to be worried at all. And I think it was just like he felt the pressure of, like, being recorded and, like, speaking conversationally. But he had like a notepad with him, and he had like tons of notes that he was like reading off of. And but yeah, he did a fantastic job. But it was really, really good to see him, and he's a super cool dude.
Yeah, and well, last time I was there, we got Tom, the Tom,
Yeah.
the Pocky X. He came out there, and Tom's a hoot. Oh my goodness! I was mentioning this to the guys, and I guess since we're a family friend show, I can't spell it all out, but you'll get the picture. But him and his friend do a podcast. It's the Pocky Flocky. I'll just say excrement show. How about that? That's you figure it out, right? But I will tell you the same. I tell you, they just put an episode, and it's kind of those things where they just come out when they come out, and it's just this weird stream of consciousness. Sort of, I laughed so much at the last episode. Those guys are funny, and Tom is hilarious. So I can't. Not for your kids. It's not like this show. It's not family friendly. But in your car on your drive to work or something, turn it on and have a gigantic laugh. So I would highly recommend checking that out. But yeah, everybody's really pretty awesome that's come out, and I know I kind of felt bad. Will kept hitting me up. I was like, "Oh, you're coming, right? You're coming, right?" Like, I would love to, but it was just there was no way this was not falling the way it was going to fall, and I kind of knew that was the way it was going to be. So I was kind of really sad. So hopefully they'll make it out next time I can make it out. I really want to do it next year. So, but Pam's been doing the panels, so maybe she'll have a panel again next year. To actually do a whole nother topic, but time is what it is, and I think anybody that's ever listened to the show completely understands that we can sometimes get on a tangent. So we want to thank everybody very much for taking the time to listen. We'll get back to this topic that we probably hinted at a little bit. It's not going to go away. We'll just save it. Episode 50 was so magical, though. We just couldn't fit any more magic in it without risking your harm as a listener. So as always, a couple things to keep in mind. First off, thank everybody very much for downloading and listening to the show as usual. And just so everybody knows, we're also in some new places. So as we always like to do, where can people find the show, guys? So Krabby, where can people find the show?
On YouTube.
We are definitely on YouTube. Bill, where else?
One of the new places that I am a subscriber of for my whole family is Spotify.
I did not know you were a subscriber.
I am a subscriber. Because we canceled our satellite radio in favor of commercial-free music presented by Spotify.
Well, look at that. Well, you could find our show if you are, like Bill, a dedicated Spotify user. But a few other places, right? Let's pepper them out. What do we got?
Twitter.
Yep.
Twitter. So at Collectorcast. Bill, what's your Twitter handle? Twiddle twiddle. Yeah, that too.
You got me. I tried to keep it together. I couldn't do it. It's just at Bill McGee. BILMCGEE.
1L, right? Bill with
Yep.
1L. Don't forget that. Krabby, you are literally using Twitter. I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you.
I've made tweets.
I have alerts set up for whenever Krabby tweets. My phone.
I think you may have responded to more of my tweets than anyone.
Yeah, it's because I know what it's like to tweet and then have 80 billion people be like,
So? It's like one of the memes, like me. Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Everybody else.
yeah. No, but it has kind of occurred to me in recent times that like, oh hey, I should be interacting with the people whose content I appreciate and would like to interact with. So Twitter's a weird place for me because like I feel like there's like a disconnect between me and people I don't know. But then people are trying to tell me like, no, like just start interacting with people and then they'll interact back with you. So
It's true.
It is a little bit of like a getting used to it period. But yeah, I have appreciated Krabby's tweets and you will too.
I am like you, like starting to acclimatize to it because I've tried to use it in the past and it just has not made any sense to me and I've fallen off and it's starting to click now.
So, Krabby, if somebody wants to follow you, where can they find you?
At Kelsey Polnick.
You're going to have to spell that.
KELSYPOLNIK.
Very good. Yeah,
That's me. No one had stealed my name before, so it was nice and easy to get.
Always nice when things work out for you. I just, the same thing I was talking to my wife the other day. I had this situation that comes up. So somebody was talking about an artist who I followed a little bit ago on Twitter. It's the artist that did the cover art for Phantasy Star 2, as well as like a lot of other Japanese art. And so I found out he's on Twitter, so I'm following him. The guy tweets a lot, just like basic stuff like, hey, I got up this morning and that's nice. And he does it in English and some Japanese, I think just to keep himself up to date, like in using some different languages that he has. But, a few tweets back and forth with the guy, very nice, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, you can. I'm talking to a guy across the globe who I think is an amazing artist that made some things from like 30 years ago that I thought was cool, and you can just totally do that, you know what I mean? And people will be like, oh yeah, thanks, cool. So I love it.
Right on.
Now we are in a few other places though, right?
You've added us to Spotify.
I think Bill just
Oh.
told
Did you
us.
say that already?
Bill just told
We
us
talked
that.
about Twitter. I lost everything now.
Why don't you just tell me the name of the movie?
More with the Larry David references. But no, yet Krabby mentioned the most important one, YouTube. How about rfgeneration.com?
That is the website, the home of the Collectorcast and various other podcasts like the Shoot the Corecast and the Playcast. So come by and join in some forums and chit chat with us. They're not totally dead yet. Forums still exist.
Yes, still there's probably still time, depending on when we get this out, to join the Playcast for October, where they're playing Curse of the Moon, the Bloodstained game.
Very good. It is good. And you can find us on Facebook. We are still there. I still post things from time to time.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I apologize because I'm not a big Facebook user, but
Yeah.
it's.
I'm drifting away from it. I used to be a Facebook user, and now I'm kind of realizing that the people who it's not working for me. I don't want to say anything bad about Facebook, but
My wife loves it. It's not for me.
Yeah, that's probably the
loved
cleanest
it
way to
as
say it.
a marketing tool when I had my store. I didn't have an account before I had the store, and I don't have an account now that the store's gone. It worked awesome, and it got my message out to a lot of people, and we never had to spend anything on marketing, and I have no interest in using it in my personal life.
Understandable. But hey, we're still in the iTunes, or I guess now I have to say now, it's Apple Podcasts. We're in the Apple Podcast Store and the Google Play Store. And I'm waiting for the comeback. There is a beta site of the infamous podcast Pickle.
Pickle?
The Pickle has a beta page up. So, come back maybe? If it does come back, they need to credit us for their success. That's all I can say.
People, yeah.
Does the beta have like a subtitle? Is it like the Sweet and Sour edition or something?
Dill, I think. It's just they're going with just Dill.
Fried.
I assumed that was the original.
Oh no, bread and butter was the original.
Yeah, my wife likes them fried.
Gross.
So does mine, big time.
Gross.
Anywhere we are, she's like, "Oh, fried pickles, we have to stop here."
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody very much for taking the time to listen and celebrating 50 episodes with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys soon. All right. I think we're ready for a topic. Yeah?
Heck yes.
Oh, sorry. You said Tom Clancy and I fell asleep there.